We're live.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The mayor has called the meeting to order. Mayor Davey.
Here.
Councilmember Kaplan.
Here.
Councilmember Laredo.
Here.
Vice Mayor London. Councilmember McCormick is not with us. Councilmember Moss.
Here.
And Councilmember Segrella is not with us. Mr. Mayor, we do have a quorum. First item is...
And for the invocation?
Yes. Father Pagwagwa wasn't able to be with us this evening. Father Andrew Fulton is going to do the invocation.
Father.
God of justice and mercy, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of your city. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us a spirit of service. Remind us that we are stewards of your authority. Guide us to be the leaders of your people need. Help us see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us, and to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence your creation deserves. And finally, Father, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a community worthy of the human person. We ask this as your sons and daughters, confident in your goodness and love. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item, Mr. Mayor's brief comments by council.
Okay, first, let me thank the folks who put together the Children's Business Fair last weekend, a week and a half ago. Todd, that was incredible. It was a spectacular event. It was great to have an event on Key Biscayne, and it reminded me of just what a great community this is. You know, we had kids had all sorts of ideas. They put it all together. I know they got Councilmember McCormick to be a judge. So I appreciate her efforts in that regard, but it just goes to show you, you know, and that's one of those things that we've supported, getting it going, getting it off the ground. And I think it builds community. It builds, you know, it helps our children. And it just shows, again, what we can do when we work together as a community. So I really want to thank everybody who took part, and thank you to staff for assisting in that endeavor. Councilmember McCormick? No, Councilmember McCormick, and then Councilmember Kaplan. I'm just looking, and then whoever else. Go ahead, Councilmember Moss.
I'm waiting for Councilmember McCormick to go. Yeah, I just wanted to bring up one comment very quickly. Next meeting, we're going to be reviewing the second reading for Chapter 30 Zoning Code Amendments. Please, if you guys have any issues, any questions, send it to the clerk so we can get that to the administration so we can be better prepared, smoother meeting. So as you guys do your due diligence and read it and have questions, please send it over. And I can help out as well so that we're better prepared.
Great.
One thing, if we could get, or at least if I could get, and anybody else, of course, who would find this useful, a black line from where we left off, I think it was last fall. There's been some changes that we haven't really participated in since then.
Yeah. Yeah, we can talk to administration and see if they can do that. Yeah.
Great.
I don't know who, other than me, was affected in last night's, I don't know, electronic dance music Causeway clogging accident, but I was hoping that somebody could get us a report. I think quite a few Key Biscayners were affected for several hours trying to get back home last night. It was a mess.
All right. Well, I think that'll probably come up in the manager's report, maybe, if there's somebody to report on that.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Chief Eunice will be able to give us an update on that. Great.
Councilmember.
I just want to thank all, particularly you and Moss and McCormick, and the 4 or 5 community doers who are devoting their time, free time, as versus some of the complainers who come here, talk about all the negative things and leave. for their presence in the very important meeting in the county on Rickenbacker. It was beautiful to see us working together, united, and with great citizens that took time off their busy day to be there all day, trying to move the ball forward. And of course, it's a blessing that Ed London came in late, because that way we could get a full blessing from his father. Had he been here as our main sinner, those prayers don't get up to the ceiling. Right, Chief?
He might have had to improvise, that's true.
You got anything, Vice Mayor? Okay, let's move on. Public comments?
The next item is public comments.
Right. Pete, if you could make we don't have anybody signed up, but I have one hand raised in the audience. Pete, if you could read the instructions real quick.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you watching us on channel 77 or channel 99, if you do wish to have a comment to this meeting, please dial the following phone numbers: 305-365-7569. And then please enter the meeting ID of 231-627-8415. And then please hit star #9 in order to raise your hand. For those of you that are currently in the meeting and wish to speak, again, please either raise your hand through the Zoom app or hit star #9.
That's #9, not *9, correct?
Correct, sir.
Okay, thank you.
#9.
Ceci
Mr.
Sanchez.
Mayor, I have no one currently signed up.
Great. Ceci Sanchez is the first speaker.
Cecile Sanchez. Good evening, 260 Cypress Drive. I was affected last night. I was trying to get to a 7:30 meeting of the island and got stuck. It's scary. It's concerning. This is on a Monday. I know it was supposed to be a holiday, but my question is this going to be the future for us? What are we going to do? Is playing nice with county and city working out? Is it what I have to do from now on? Is plan not to go out of the island? It's extremely concerning, I'm sure, for many, and frustrating for all of you too. Just if you could give us at some point some feedback as to like the allegations of the architect that did the Z plan, that he said that he met with you, Mike, and he met several times with Gene Stearns, and why doesn't he understand that the plan needs to keep on going through Crandon? We need access. How are we going to battle this? I don't know. It's just concerning if you live here that we will not be able, if the Sea Aquarium is going to have events, and the hotel is coming, and the Marine Stadium, and the Marina Park, and Virginia Key, and what else? What are we going to do? It's scary. I don't know. I know that sometimes you don't have the answer, but maybe just talking to us, and what is the strategy? What are we going to do if being nice doesn't work? That's one thing. The other thing is that I maybe need to direct it to Mr. Manager. I hope at some point we get back a landscaping committee. I'm concerned. I hope we get the grants that we're going to, hopefully Todd is going to get for the village, but there's so many things that don't look at their best, especially also Grandin Boulevard. If we keep on having those sprinklers on all the time, maybe we're killing the plants also. And why do we have different kinds of grasses there? It just... We need TLC there. I hope we get a horticulturalist soon. And maybe if one last thing is that hopefully if we get the pretty lights again on the trees for Christmas, could we get a timer so that we don't waste electric the whole day having them on? Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I like this device. I'm not going to lie to you. It makes it easy. Anybody else want to speak in the chambers? Okay. Pete, do we have anybody signed up? Pete? Okay. Here. Pete, do we have anybody?
We have Pete.
We're down one. Doesn't sound like it. Okay, let's move on.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I may, the one caller that actually has raised their hand.
Okay, well then.
Telephone number ending in 059. Caller, please dial *6 now to unmute yourself. Again, that is telephone number ending in 059. Caller, please dial *6 to unmute yourself.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, we can hear you. State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Esteban Formoso. My address is 300 Sunrise Drive, apartment 3C. I have like to mention a couple of issues. One of them is the walkway at Eden Drive, the beach walkway at East Eden Drive. I sent an email about a couple of weeks ago to Mr. David Carreño and mentioning, giving him a list of all the issues that I see in the walkway. There's no lights in the walkway. The showers are not working. The house where you can have a barbecue, it's completely, everything's rusted. The little bridge, the wood is coming out. It's really, really, really bad. I suggest someone goes there and takes a look at that area because it's really, really, really depressing. Okay? That's issue number one. Issue number two is just a good comment. In reference to the landscape at Brandon Boulevard. I realize it's not complete yet, but I must say it's a huge improvement to what we had a year ago, and I see a great improvement. So I look forward to seeing it completed soon. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Pete, do we have anybody else?
The manager, you'll follow
Pete?
up on that.
Mr. Mayor, I have no one else signed up.
Okay.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is the agenda: approval, deferrals, additions, deletions, substitutions, withdrawals.
Move. I like to.
Well, no, hold on. People have to put it on before. Yeah, no, Councilmember Laredo, go first. You can't move anything when there's nothing there.
Oh, no, I would just, for the interest of time, the resolutions, unless there's some of you that we can have the village clerk read them all at once and vote for them, because I think they're pretty non-controversial.
I don't, okay, there may be some that.
There may be some,
You
okay.
want a consent agenda?
It should have been in consent, but.
I don't think we can do that, can we?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I have no objection if the council wants to do that. We can read all the titles and vote if that's the will of the council.
Can we just put it on a consent?
That's fine.
It'd be a lot easier than reading them all.
You could. You can move them all. I guess the each positions, deletions, deferral.
All right.
We'll move it to consent.
Vice Mayor, you have that?
I'm just thinking that especially people listening in would like to know that we're considering each one, even though we're going to do them together. We're not going to go read them all now. We're going to just say they're part of the consent agenda. So I just think that, again, I understand, Luis, I don't want to waste any time, but I just think you hit each one, get a vote on each one, because resolutions are meaningful.
Okay.
I would prefer, because why don't you just have the clerk just read each title then? And then you guys could take all one vote if you want. You could do it
if there's discussion at that point, well, but I think he's going to want to discuss some of the.
I don't know particular.
Okay, all right, well then fine.
I'm just saying as a matter of practice.
Okay, so if it's better, are we in agreement on that then? The friendly amendment would be to have her read each one and vote on each one as we go?
No, you can just read all the titles and make one vote.
Fine. Okay, fine. Then let's do that. And that's fine. That was your original motion then. Councilmember Laredo's original motion. So his original motion.
All of the resolutions?
Yes, to read all of them, and then we'll have one vote.
Okay.
Okay?
Mr. Mayor, the special presentation is being deferred to the October 26th regular.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I thought that was already off. Sorry. Okay. Okay, so any other additions, deletions? All right, we have, I second, and Councilmember Laredo moved, I seconded. Let's,
All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then what I would do is just
You
vote on the
read these?
consent.
Hold on.
Vote on
Okay.
the consent, and then afterwards we'll have Jocelyn read all the
I move
titles.
the consent.
Second, the consent?
I have a Scrivener's error in the July 27th minutes. It's just the vote on the consent agenda that I would wish to add.
Friendly amendment that the Scrivener's error is corrected by the clerk subsequent to the vote?
Thank you.
Okay.
I will make just this comment to the clerk. It is a little too late. One of your primary responsibilities under the charter is the minutes, and I know you get inundated with other stuff.
Yes.
I need the minutes earlier.
Okay.
Because sometimes there are things in there, and we've mentioned this before, that as we go on and on and on, but you should keep separately a little to-do list of things we agree to that cannot wait for the minutes, so that there is a follow-up. And I believe the manager does that anyway, correct? Right. But getting the minutes of June 29th today is a little, you know.
Yes, I understand.
And of course, and just briefly here on the second one.
We could put a time certain that the minutes are done after each meeting. You want to do that?
Yes,
2
that
weeks
would be
after
So
each
we make it a
meeting,
formal.
the minutes are done.
Well, I don't, can you do that without?
And if you read the charter, and you're going to be measured by the charter, that is the two things that it says in the charter.
So 2
So
weeks, did
everybody
you say?
else can
Ed?
wait.
Ed, was that your point, 2 weeks?
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Is that good with everybody?
Yeah.
If you can feasibly do it, I mean, I think typically that's what happens pretty much anyway.
No, there should be no reason.
Try my best.
It's a rarity to have this kind of lag.
No, so I'm saying make it so that we expect it to within 2 weeks, not after 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks.
So all meetings subsequent to tonight, 2 weeks.
But it would still be a part of the agenda.
Yeah.
Yes, we just need to have it, not only for the approval, Jocelyn, it's just that it's our ability. We have jobs, you have other things. This is free. You know, we need to make sure that it's a follow-up. And that is why before, with the previous clerk and the previous manager, I said, besides that, you should have a little list, like I do, a to-do list of decisions, so you follow up.
To make life simple, Jocelyn, as soon as you get it
Exactly,
done,
making it easier
don't
for
wait
you.
for the agenda, just send it out
Yeah.
to everybody.
Yeah.
I'm
One
sorry.
quick question for the manager, Mr.
No, hold
Ed.
on.
I'm sorry.
She didn't understand. As soon as you finish the minutes, send them out to all council members to see it.
Email.
It's that simple.
But they still go in the packet, too.
Within 2 weeks.
Yes.
Okay.
They go in the packet to be approved, but that way if somebody has a decision, if they want to change, if they believe there's a
exactly.
change, they're ready for it at.
Yeah, but it may not be in the next agenda because that's more than two. It's exactly 2 weeks, and she has to get it in then 3 or 4 days earlier than the 2 weeks. I think that's so. It may be the following.
No, but as long as you
Following
sent them
meeting.
out in 2 weeks, you're fine.
It's fine.
Send them out.
Yeah.
And that way maybe people can make comments, and if they have comments, then they come back and we'll discuss them on the dais.
Okay.
On page 9, just a question for the manager of the second set of agenda on July 27th. Page 9, there is on the issue of the impact fee that you were going to report back to the council. Do you have? I'm not going to amend the minutes, but you have kind of a goal date for that. It's about halfway. A consensus of the council to direct manager to look at what it would cost the village to make a first step in this process, and report back to the council.
We do not have a date on that, but how about I propose, we're going through.
No, I'm not putting pressure on you.
No,
This
no,
is again back to the to-do list. You're following up on that?
We are, and
Okay.
the reason why I say, why don't I propose is because we're coming back with building fees, and then we're gonna come back with stormwater fees. How about we come back in February or January, February on impact fees?
Is that okay with you, Moss?
No, for me, yeah.
I want to make sure we get to the building fees
fine,
and the
fine.
stormwater fees first. I think those are really the ones we want to knock out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you,
All
sir.
right, so we have the consent agenda has been moved and seconded.
Let's call it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Motion carries.
You just read each resolution all the way through.
And by the way, just the last
And
thing
then,
for the
and then
manager.
once you're done with that, we'll vote as a group.
So I only need one to
just
move
read
it
them all at
into the
once.
second. Okay.
Mr. Manager, before she starts reading, can you put in here, I mentioned this before, manager recommends, you do it in your backup.
Where are you pointing to, sir?
Anything that is a resolution or action, I need to know if you recommend. And I know you put it in the reports. It's just a grammatical thing.
I'm trying to determine where you are, though. I'm
Okay,
not sure where you are.
the agenda, resolutions.
He would like to see something at the, in each resolution in the index that says.
Right after the first
recommended-
comma.
Manager recommends.
Or doesn't.
Or does not, correct.
You talk in the resolution itself, in the agenda?
No, in the title, yes, in the title that goes here, or just a line underneath each resolution.
We have to vote on.
Right.
Okay,
Recommends or doesn't recommend?
That's what you're saying.
got it.
I mean, I would assume
Can
most
you
of the
do
time.
it in your
you're gonna-
backup? You say manager.
Yeah, I do a memo on it.
I got
Right.
it. I know.
But he wants it in the title.
Thank you.
But the question is, does it have to be in the title, or could it just be in parentheses?
Not in the titles,
bottom?
below.
It's not part of the
Below,
title. no.
okay.
No,
Thank you.
that's it. All right.
A resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, authorizing the village manager to issue a work order to Mofat and Nickel, Inc. for engineering, surveying, and marine biological services relating to the beach renourishment project in an amount not to exceed $63,150 and providing for an effective date.
Next. Yeah,
A
just keep going.
resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, accepting a $50,000 Florida Recreation for Development Assistance Program, FRDAP, grant from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, FDEP, for improvements to Lake Park and approving a standard grant agreement related to the same, providing for authorization and providing for an effective date. A resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, accepting a $50,000 Florida Recreation for Development Assistance Program, FRDAP, grant from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, FDEP, for improvements to Hampton Park and approving a standard grant agreement related to the same, providing for authorization and providing for an effective date. A resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving a settlement agreement and general release of all claims of Blas Manuel Minaro Martinez in an amount not to exceed $150,000 to be paid by the village's insurer, providing for authorization and providing for an effective date. A resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving an agreement with the City of Miami for fire rescue, automatic aid, and ancillary services at an annual cost of $573,144, providing for authorization, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date. A resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving and accepting a public beach access easement and dedication agreement with the Sands of Key Biscayne Condominium Association, Inc., relating to the property located at 605 Ocean Drive, providing for implementation and providing for an effective date.
Move all.
I'm going to pull
Oh, he wants to pull something.
the fire agreement with the city of Miami.
I'm sorry,
That's E. He
I
wants to
didn't
pull,
hear the second. Who seconded?
I seconded, but he wants to pull 10E out.
You want to pull it out, or should we just have the discussion and then vote on it?
Okay, let's have a
Because it's
discussion.
all together now.
All right. Mr. Manager, let's have the discussion.
Chief Lang, if you approach the podium, please.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Mr. Mayor.
There.
Yes, sir.
How many years have we been doing this with the city of Miami?
Since inception in 1993, we started this agreement.
1983?
1993.
So, and what was the base price back then?
$400,000.
And what is it now, 570 something?
$575,000. $73,000.
I guess my question to the manager is, have you looked at that to see if this is necessary and is it a good deal for us?
We have. In fact, we've gone over it quite in detail over the last couple of weeks, and we believe it provides the necessary support we need to augment our.
And you believe this is required?
I do.
And I know you do.
Absolutely.
Well, that's the end of my thing.
Thank you.
All right, moved and seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, we've got public comments. Sorry, you go ahead, Justin.
Next item, Mr. Mayor's public comments.
Pete, we got anybody signed up? Pete, are you still awake?
Wake up, wake up.
Why don't you leave him alone?
What's going on back there, Kat?
While we wait, is there a short answer to the question, why was the...
My apologies, Mr. Mayor. There's somebody waiting for public comments.
Okay. Well, let's move on. Sorry, Councilmember Loreto, you had a question?
Why was the playing fields deferred? The playing fields on the agenda.
It actually was not deferred. It was an improper placement into the agenda. We have a meeting next week, and we didn't want to jump ahead of that, but we will come back on October 26th with details.
All right, next item.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is reports and recommendations, village manager. Manager's ongoing project update.
If you would, Todd, please come approach the bench. Tell us about Paradise Park. And what you don't see there is a timeline, because at that point we weren't able to receive it, but Todd actually has the timeline for the project at this point.
I'm not sure I like that name.
He'll be able to present it this time.
Yeah, we've been moving along with Durham, getting the permit process done. The well they required to be installed, a new well, was installed last Thursday and will be tested this Thursday. And as the manager indicated, we got their proposed timeline, which we will meet with them and negotiate. But basically, they start in November with general conditions and site mobilization. December is demolition and earthwork. February is the electrical raceways, concrete, and FP&L undergrounding, as well as plumbing. April, May is paving, concrete, paver installation. June to mid-July is the installation of the site furniture, the landscaping, and irrigation system. And then at the mid-July would be the punch out. And like I said, that's their initial proposed timeline. We still need to meet with them and iron everything out.
But official start would be December 5th, right?
Yes.
Would that impact Winterfest at all?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
You know, there's some work that they're going to be able to do in November that won't impact, and their submittal to us today had the fence and construction trailer being delivered on the November 30th. So the manager and I met, and since Winterfest is right after that, we're just going to move them 5 days down the line.
Perfect.
And then we'll have access to the site. So
great, thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Chief? If you would, while you're up also, Chief, you know, a number of folks have been concerned about some of the issues over the past weekend. If you could talk through some of those as well and some of the context you've had with.
Sure, I will. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Jason Eunice, Interim Chief of Police. You want me to start on the Causeway first, sir? Or would you like to?
Let's go with your initial report, and then we'll follow that up afterwards.
Okay. So speaking to the Causeway, from September 16th through October 12th, we've conducted 173 traffic stops along the Causeway in the mornings. We've issued 63 citations and issued 17 vehicle citations. I'm sorry, 63 bicycle citations and 17 vehicle citations. We've also issued 74 bicycle warnings and 19 vehicle warnings. On the 8th, we attended a multi-agency meeting to address the Causeway. Attendees included the Department of Transportation, KBPD, Miami-Dade Police Department, UMPD, Walk Safe, Bike Safe, Bike 305, and Rasmus. The discussion included conducting a multi-agency enforcement detail along the Rickenbacker Causeway, which will be kicking off next week. This would include the strict enforcement of all traffic violations observed, inclusive of both vehicles and cyclists. FDLT is spearheading this task force. Other agencies involved include Key Biscayne PD, Miami PD, Miami-Dade Police Department, Coral Gables PD, FHP, and Pinecrest on this task force. There was further discussion about sustained and more frequent multi-agency enforcement detail on the Causeway to address the safety and the concerns that we're seeing on the Causeway. So you're going to see an even larger increase of officers out on the Causeway enforcing and making sure that our residents that are traversing and the visitors are doing so safely.
Good.
to the event that occurred last night, Monday, October 11th, 2021, we experienced traffic delays inbound and outbound along the Rickenbacker Causeway due to the following incidents. A concert at the Marine Stadium caused traffic delays both inbound and outbound from the Bear Cup Bridge to the Miami Marine Stadium. The delays ranged from 20 to 40 minutes, mostly outbound, but we did have a little bit in the morning, I'm sorry, in the evening coming inbound. At approximately 10:03 p.m., two vehicles traveling outbound on the Rickenbacker Causeway collided, causing one of the vehicles to crash through the median fencing between the toll plaza and William Powell Bridge. The vehicle rolled over into the inbound lanes of traffic, causing a large debris of evidence. There were three patients that were transported. Two were transported to Ryder. One was transferred to Mercy. The ingress to Key Biscayne was closed for approximately 1 hour. The perimeter brick road that runs parallel to the Rickenbacker Causeway was used to secure the entrance onto the causeway so that vehicles can then begin traversing and being able to come onto to the quay. The reason for the delay is they have to secure the scene for any evidence that they may have, since it was a critical crash. Since it was shut down, we had to hold the traffic coming in, which was the jurisdiction of the city and the county, because you have the toll and you also have just east of the West Bridge, which all belongs to the city. So the city was there. They needed to pull resources from the other jurisdictions to be able to come in and assist in opening that brick paver area so that traffic could easily come back onto the quay. So that was a delay of an hour. There was multiple things going on. It was open probably 5:30 this morning is when it was completely cleared.
Let me ask you this, Chief. I know we'd had delays in the past. I know Chief Press had worked or tried to work with the county and the city to do exactly what happened last night. I think is to put a plan into place. Was that
Correct.
The plan?
That is the plan, the optimal plan that we have in place with
we
the
had
city
people,
and the county.
I mean, as you probably remember, a few years ago, we had that big incident on the bridge. We had the big accident where the woman was killed.
Correct.
And everything was stopped, and there was no way they hadn't done what we were able to do last night. Was they were able to, I guess, remove something and then let people
have
through.
them go into the
right. So
brick pavers.
I know there's frustration out there, but understand our staff is working to try and make the best of a bad situation on that. And while I'm at it, I forgot to mention there was the law enforcement officers weekend this weekend on Key Biscayne,
yes,
where a bunch of New Yorkers actually started this thing to honor. Well, to celebrate the lives of fallen officers throughout the country, and they all came down. They were staying at the Ritz, and they had a little event Friday night that I was glad to go to. And our officers were there. We had our honor guard there. We had good attendance. We had firefighters there as well. And so I didn't mention. I should have mentioned that earlier. That was a tremendous event, and I hope they come back because it's powerful to listen. To listen to those families and celebrate the lives of those who serve the public. But anyway, but thank you for that plan. That is assisting. We are listening, Ceci. I mean, our folks are trying to make things as we're doing what we can with what we have.
On somebody else's causeway.
Yes, exactly.
And we're talking with the county. I spoke earlier this afternoon with the assistant director Perez, and he's been very responsive, and he's going to try to get us more resources out here as well, and work along with us and try to alleviate some of this.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
It seems too limited a takeaway to simply say that these types of things are unfortunate accidents, because when they happen, when these events pour into the Marine Stadium and there's a lot of, let's say, spirituous beverages being imbibed and other intoxicating substances at these animated, I think it was an electronic dance music event yesterday, things go wrong. And when they go wrong, this critical piece of linkage between here and the rest of the world shuts down. It's great having a plan in place, but if it takes, I think I was at South Miami Avenue trying to get on the island, and it was almost 2 hours before I pulled into my driveway. It takes time. And so I think the takeaway for the people that were affected, Ceci and others, is not that there wasn't a plan and not that it wasn't implemented as promptly as possible. It's that the preservation of evidence required something other than simply moving the vehicle, which would have expedited return to normalcy, but you couldn't do that. And the plan, you know, did help ultimately. It took a long time.
Yeah, and I think ultimately our goal collectively is to deal not so much with the proximate cause of these issues, but really what the root causes are, and it's to what you speak about. So we're working together with the county and the city to try to get that resolved.
Chief, I have one simple question. You've had all these bike citations, you said, this past week or past few weeks. How do you know, do the bike riders carry identification with them?
For the most part, they do.
I mean, so in other words, that's how you're able to produce identification?
Sure.
And if they don't, what do you do?
We can run them by their name, date of birth, and we can see their license or identification over our computers.
So in other words, I'm just thinking, are they just going to give you information so they don't have to pay the ticket and keep violating the rules?
If they have a Florida ID, then we can identify them on the spot.
Okay, and if they don't?
If they don't, then what we do is we issue a citation. On the portion of the citation, there's a thumbprint that they have to impress on. Okay. And then that goes into the county. They run the system and they put them in the system that way.
And how much is the ticket for citation?
I couldn't tell you right now, depending on the infraction. And, you know, if it's a moving infraction, it also involves points on your license as well.
Even if it's a bicycle?
I believe so, if you're running through red lights and things of that nature. Sure.
Thank you.
I had
Councilmember Lorio.
Thank you. Two things. One is we have extraordinary better relationship with Metro Dade, and you know that I've spoken to the chief. But we're lukewarm on City of Miami, and unfortunately they're having a turbulent time right now as we speak. The new chief has been dismissed. But we need to work on reinforcing City of Miami.
I was working on that with Chief Manny Morales, and then he's been busy these past few weeks, and I think they put him in as the interim now. So, but I was trying to build that relationship with them, and also the captain that's in charge of the Causeway as well.
Yeah. The other thing is, Mr. Mayor, you talk about a plan, but this is the second time, and this requires probably some urgent matter, that a downward from the bridge towards the exit. Yeah. This is the second time that it's jumped into the other lane, and in fact, we lost a citizen here that was coming in, I believe.
I think she was going out as well, wasn't she?
No, she.
Yeah. I think she was. I don't recall, but I think she was going out in the pole.
Yeah, but it jumped into the inlet, and it was she
hit a pole in the middle. But anyway, that's.
No, because we just have a little flimsy little fence there, and it seems like this is. I could be wrong, but I thought that they had jumped over for the second time. In other words, into the incoming lane, so it'd be a head-on collision for that person coming in. Is that what happened this weekend?
That's what happened last night.
Yeah, and what I'm trying to say is we need to put a little priority on making some sort of concrete barrier there, because that is lethal.
Well, that's really the county's got to do that, or the city of Miami.
No, but I'm saying as you converse and we plan, we need to also show doing.
It's city jurisdiction, but the county is actually who operates.
But do you agree that we need a barrier there that can?
I believe it'd be safer.
I mean, it's.
I agree with you.
I believe it'd be a lot safer to contain the traffic, of course.
No, and also to avoid an innocent incomers driving perfectly afforded a car coming at them.
Correct.
Does anybody remember that didn't that jump to the other lane?
No, she got hit. She got hit from behind and slammed into a pole.
Well, look into it.
But your point is taken. I mean, if somebody comes across
one of the regular barriers that
but it's the county and the city.
Put them up.
We got to put some pressure on.
You know, the pre-concrete things that you use on bridges. Put them up. Thank you, Chief.
Chief.
Thank you.
Chief Lang?
Just a little update on COVID. We recently, October 6th, I believe it was, we had another pop-up event where we provided 163 vaccines. I think it was 20, most of them were booster shots, which we were able to get through the state. There was about 25 first and second doses that were provided. We have a second event that's set up for October 27th, so coming up this month at the community center again. We continue to monitor the positivity rate, and I looked at the state this morning. Looks like we're down below 3%, which is a great number for positivity rates. The number of vaccine events have continued both locally in Florida here and in Miami-Dade County. And I think at the moment, things are relatively positive with COVID. And something that I know the county's been offering and some local vendors are also offering is the Regeneron, which is been very effective for a number of the people that I've spoke to that have taken it. Any additional questions?
No, we don't have the mayor or the vice mayor, but we'll.
Thank you.
Can you, because I may have to take a half an hour break for an important Zoom call, can you jump to E, the kite surfing?
They step out?
Please.
Sure, kite surfing, Roland.
Good evening, Mayor, council members.
Hi, sir.
So in regards to kite surfing,
yes,
we've been working pros, Public Works, myself and the manager on getting some beach rangers out there at the latest windy weekend. I think not this past weekend, but the weekend before. KBPD was able to get some officers to show up there. I think that it had a positive impression on kiters' behavior. Todd at Pros, he's currently working on trying to line up folks to be out there more consistently. It's a little challenging because we're going on forecasts of wind, and sometimes you think it's going to be windy and then it's not. But that's something that we're currently working on, getting the beach rangers out there. And until we have actual rangers, KBPD is trying to get out there as the wind requires. And I'm continuing with the permitting process for the vessel exclusion zone and getting the buoys out there. And I just found out from FDEP today that they're going to grant us the de minimis exemption. So that's another positive step. And so it's the paperwork and the permitting is ongoing. And the manager and I are actually contemplating reaching out and getting some RFP out there to see if maybe someone would be interested in running the beach site almost like the way Miami Kiteboarding is operating, with a lot more formality and stuff like that.
Mr. Mayor and my fellow councilmen, you know, I took the initiative in trying to draw a peace plan here with these two competing interests. And I have to tell you, Chair, I sent some of this in writing, how disappointing I am at the kite surfers that I stuck my head out for. They promised me and us their time and their self-regulating. This is a sport. This is not core business. We're bending over backwards to accommodate them. I have now twice, been there, and it's reckless what they do. The last time, as you know, I went up to the lane. There were 4 guys sitting on their little booth, and I said, you guys are, helping us patrol this thing? And they basically told me to go fly a kite and said, and some of us are residents. An attitude that is unbelievable. While I'm trying to get, can't go to the beach anymore because, I mean, they're missing people in Key Colony by inches. So their promise of we cannot assume more costs as we fight for budget reductions and expanding our core business to accommodate a sport, and their end of the bargain, as far as I'm concerned, they lost it. Because you're talking about hiring people. By the way, the police department did a great job that day. Congratulations, they were there in 5 minutes. They were dealing with some illegal thing, and they rushed over there. But that is not the framework of the promise. if they can't take their responsibility, then go somewhere else. You know, I mean, and you need to tell them on my behalf or take me to a meeting. It was ridiculous. It's a burden on us, and it's very ungraceful and lack of class. And so let's don't down the slippery slope of hiring more people to accommodate. No, we don't have the money, we don't have the resources, and it is not our responsibility. They failed us. They really have failed. And you and the manager, we're putting a lot of time into it.
I guess I would offer my perspective just from what I've observed, and starting with the premise that I think the folks from the kiteboarder community that came and spoke to us conceded that their problem is that their core group is basically compliant, but outliers are not. And they more or less confess to having had difficulty in policing that. My just anecdotal observations are that it's an improved situation, but there's still some that bomb around where they're not supposed to be. I suppose the solution as intended was that the imposition of this ranger function is designed to address that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if we have someone on the beach that is representing the village to enforce the rules, that behavior will change. But until we actually have someone out there to hold people accountable, then you're beholden in a way to the self-policing concept, which doesn't work really well because it only takes, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 bad apples to ruin the barrel. So I mean, I think that, well,
let me interrupt you because I appreciate your softening of my stand, but they have the responsibility to self-control. We can supplement it. I'm telling you, they're not there. And you know what? They should assign among themselves one guy who sacrifices a Sunday to be there every Sunday or whatever day it is. And by the way, because I've been looking at, there is an app that tells you the night before what the wind is. So
yeah,
it is, and it's almost 100% certain. So it's not like we go every day. But the key, Councilman Kaplan, is that they are not even there. And the 4 that were there, they said basically, hey, I obey the rules. I don't care. And some of us, by the way, are residents, meaning are not residents. And so I agree with you, but on the other hand, come on, get serious.
Yeah, I think that their commitments included the proposition that someone would be there to, you know, sort of eyes on the prize, and to call in if, for example, they don't have the authority or the power personally, you call it in. So I think it's a point they should be there.
Keep monitoring, keep at it, get the Rangers out there. You know, they are, because to Councilmember Laredo's point, you know, there's a point where this is a privilege, not a right. And I've been saying that for 10 years now. I've been telling them, you know, you get to do this because you comply with the rules. You don't comply with the rules, this is going to go away. So that would be my recommendation to everybody. They need to self-police, but they also, if somebody's giving them a problem, report the person. Call a cop. I mean, it's not hard. Call it in if we get the beach rangers, report it to a beach ranger. But let's work together as a community so that everybody gets to enjoy the beach. It's not just for kiters anymore.
Agreed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We missed D. Are we going back to D, or is that?
When you were out, we moved it. I didn't know if I was
there. Jake, you coming to talk to us about sewer to septic, or septic to sewer, whichever way you want to go?
Let's go septic to sewer.
Fair enough.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Manager. Status update: we have 63 homes that's still on septic, out of 6328 in process and 35 in enforcement. So it's 3 more homes that connected since last reporting.
Right.
We made quite a bit of progress in the last few years. We've kind of come to a stop in the last 6 months. It's not really moving. And we had a number of meetings with the county and trying to ask them to enforce, but for a number of reasons, that hasn't happened. So we met internally with Mr. Manager, myself, the building official. We believe that we have authority to enforce it. And so that's what's going to happen. We will be drafting a letter to residents that still not connected and tell them the process, and then the fines will follow if they don't start the process.
Excellent.
And I'm sure you will receive a lot of phone calls from the residents, so if they do call, refer them to me. We'll be more than happy to help them. Not in the business to collect fines, but I think it's come to the point that we're going to have to start poking and get them to start the process.
Yeah, how long has it been since the last group hit their 10-year mark?
Well over 13 months, actually.
Right, it's been over a year.
Overdue.
So, yeah, I mean, I hear you. Let's work with people the best we can, but let's get everybody. Let's be a sewer community.
Yeah, and I think we did everything we could. We'll still do. We're going to help him in our capacity, but that's our final and only move that is left.
Is there any main reason they give you, Jake, for not connecting? I mean, the ones who don't connect and aren't even trying to connect.
They just don't respond.
I mean, again, they don't come and tell us
why
exactly, but it's mostly like it's not. It's construction is not pretty. That's the major reason. Nobody wants to do it. I don't think it's the finances, but it's mostly like the discomfort of the construction itself. And if they're content with their septic tank, if it's working fine, if it's a small size of family, it will work. But again, the water quality suffers. So I believe the discomfort of construction is the biggest issue, not necessarily finance.
What kind of enforcement is the county doing? You say they're enforcing.
They're not right now.
They're not doing anything.
So when you said they're up to enforcement, they should be enforcing it.
Correct.
That is their ordinance to enforce. Right. However, they have not. So we're choosing to go ahead and enforce. Look, there's a remaining 35 that need to be impelled, and that's our choice to go ahead and get these.
And what can we do? You said we're going to give them citations. Do we have what rights do we have under that, Chad?
I haven't looked at it. We haven't discussed that. But I can tell you under the county code, the county has the authority to do the project, lien it, and get specially assessed and to get paid back.
Well,
under the county code. So the question is, can we assume that responsibility? Yes. I haven't looked at that. We haven't discussed it, but you know, first of all, I think there's a policy discussion. Does the village want to lay out that money initially? Yeah. Number one.
That's 35 times what? It's about $350,000. Yeah, I figured.
So it's 280,000.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's see.
And then number two, you know, it may be worth speaking to our county commissioner and trying to put some pressure to get the county to do it, because they have it in their code. I mean, and by the way, underneath their code, all of these people have exceeded the time frame in which
I understand that.
Yeah, no, they're all they're right. They're well
but like clearly, the county under the code, the county can go in and they can do it, and it makes sense for the county to do it too, because they become paying customers for the county for WASA. So, you know, again, Jake and I will look into that. I'm sure we can arrange something, but.
Does the county have to delegate that authority to us to go ahead and do that?
Can they delegate?
Right now, it's a violation. I'd have to check the county code, Ed, to see if we can.
So if we did it, then we put a lien on the property. Is that correct?
Yeah.
If we get that level of authority.
Right.
Because right now, it's not a violation of our own village code,
I understand.
Right? So we need to make sure.
Well, that's what I'm asking, how we're going to enforce something.
So
but it's not our code.
I mean, just like we have, lots of times, we do have agreements with the county.
County, right? I was just thinking.
That's what I'm saying.
We can enforce certain county provisions, right?
So I need to look at. I need to look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Take a look.
Similar to the 40-year certification, again, county code, but we are able to enforce. We believe we can follow the same methodology.
The difference with that is that the county code actually says, city, you have to enforce it. Here, we would have to probably enter into some agreement with the county. Let me look at it and I'll report back to you.
Okay.
Talk to the county attorneys.
Thank you. I'm a little bit out of order, but perhaps as a courtesy, I made a mistake. I should have asked you at the beginning. Since I may have to, I'm going to take my call back here, but can we discuss, or perhaps, I don't know if you've been able to.
Jake Dunn?
You all set on the sewers?
Did you get out to Palmwood today to see that condition?
Yes.
Thank you.
On my item for discussion on village boards?
Right. I know you sent an email around. I didn't have a chance to
Okay, so
review.
you think it better to defer it? Then? I just
Well,
don't
my
want
recommendation, you want to bring an action item? I mean, if you're going to bring proposals, bring it, because we've talked about it. Bring
no, I
the
sent
items and
an
let's do
email.
that.
It's been a busy week. It's just
No, but
very simple. Like we could probably do it in 5 minutes.
But I mean, let's bring something as a resolution or an ordinance. Would it be an ordinance change or would it be a resolution?
You told me to prepare an action memorandum. What I did is what we approved, what I recommend discretionary approved, and then administrative. And it was late today. Basically, you didn't make copies, right? You did pass it on.
Sent the email around. No, I know there was an email. There was a couple points in there that there were some things I agreed. There were some things I didn't agree, but that's
and in there at the end, I said, then not us, let the manager, let the city attorney then codify it all so we have, I list all the accomplishments and we're almost there. 7-member maximum, 2-year term. The transparency thing was also approved already, which is, if you're directly or indirectly doing business with the village. And then under discretionary that can be grandfathered in whether a spouse or immediate family.
Yeah, that was one I was like,
I put the grandfather clause in there. In other words, that would grandfather whoever's there now to the end of their term.
Did everybody have a chance to read it?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah, and that's a simple one. And the rest, I just wanted to make clear that is the village clerk's responsibility to keep it up to date.
Okay.
2-year terms, and also to give you.
But how do you want to codify it with a resolution or an ordinance?
If you approve with it, let's discuss what you can, and then we can move on.
Well, again, I'd rather go through it line by line when I have had, because I got it today. I had 2 closings and I had a bunch of stuff going on today, so it was not a day to get in. I just happened to see a couple of the points. I said, okay, I like this, but I don't agree.
The only one that seems to be you're not sure about is the family.
Right, spouses and family. Yeah, I wasn't
even with the grandfather clause.
I didn't even see that in the thing. So I mean,
thought I avoid that by saying henceforth, so that we don't damage anybody who's there now.
But
okay,
all right.
So, and then appointments. You would want to do it. There are some vacancies and stuff you want to.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even.
Okay, so I think it's probably better, which is why I was to defer to the next meeting.
Fine, defer to the next.
So just so I'm clear,
it's just going to be a discussion item at the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, put it very official, because then from then on, it's not me, it's you. You have to codify it so that we don't have to have this discussion. We've been at this for 3 years.
As soon as I get the direction,
okay.
I'll codify it.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, next item.
And before it goes on, I think.
Would you like me to read the manager's updates titles?
No, just the next one is the beach maintenance.
Jocelyn, I think what Councilmember Laredo said on his item, he wants it to be actionable. So make sure that it just says a motion on that.
At the next meeting to be actionable.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So people know.
Sir?
Okay.
You just up here?
Regarding beach maintenance, we did issue the RFP for the beach maintenance for redoing the contract. We're having the bid opening tomorrow afternoon. Right now, we've only had one bid.
Was it Beach Rakers?
But procurement believes that they'll be getting more bids at the last minute electronically. So we'll see, but that's tomorrow afternoon. And then as far as seaweed hauling, in August we did 40 trucks, we predicted 50. In September we did 11 trucks, we projected 50. Good. So the ocean was kind to us. And now we're in the next fiscal year, and we were doing great. We had 5 trucks until last week, where we did 20. So right now we're at 25 trucks, for middle of October.
Have we heard from Commissioner Regalato's staff? Because I understand they got us. I'm sorry, am I ruining the ending?
You are ruining the ending. That's the exciting part.
No. The county did.
That's what I heard. They approved. She was very happy to tell us.
I don't know what that exact amount is, but the manager and I have to meet with them to figure out what it is, and we actually have a sketched out proposal in collaboration with the Virginia Key Historic Beach Trust and with an outfit that can do the composting and has another dimension to it. And so that's something that the manager and I are working on right
That's
now.
great. Let's keep going with that. I'm really excited that we're.
Yeah, that's it. It was a total of $1 million across the county, and so it's a county program. Obviously, with Key Biscayne is a major part of it.
Yeah.
Our recommendation is it's a partnership between us, pros, and WASD.
That's great.
And so we'll continue to work that with Rebecca.
Yeah. So once we figure out from Commissioner Regalato's team how much we have available to work with, then that will define sort of the scale of the composting pilot that we do out there.
Awesome.
Have you explained the pilot just real briefly to them?
Very briefly, the pilot involves us providing them with the seaweed and yard mulch to mix with the seaweed and to do multiple composting trials. And then and then there's also an aspect of it that involves vermicomposting. And then there's going to be a testing program to understand sort of the qualities of the compost that's generated. And then that compost will also take some food waste, some of which might come from the village. And if not enough from the village, then from the people that we're collaborating with. And then we're going to just document how much compost is generated, the volumes of seaweed, the volumes of mulch, the volumes of this and that and the other, and then that'll be sort of like a basis for scaling up a program depending on the availability of funds.
No, that's great. I appreciate everybody. I appreciate how much you're doing with Regalato and
right now where we're at is we're trying to do it at a scale that is tractable while it's a low seaweed part of the year. And then operationally, you get things figured out with the thought that then when things ramp up in May again, then we'll be able to start taking on more.
Correct.
I don't know if you were there at Bill Bagg's, Barrett, Davey, and I, and so I think Allison was there as well. The zero waste culture demonstration.
Roland was there.
So that's I'm trying to see if we can
work with
some
them.
Food waste from them. And
they just had their 1 year anniversary, by the way, over the weekend.
Yeah, and I think there's an opportunity to work with them. They're looking to try and scale up. I'd be interested in seeing if we can't grab some of their food waste and use it for this composting experiment. And so it's been slow and tedious, but we're making progress.
The answer to that probably is we all could demonstrate a little bit more leadership in getting more people to participate in the food waste.
They've got about 140 people, they said, signed up right now.
Yeah, that sounds
composting.
Right,
so they're slowly but surely. All right, thank you. Anything else? And then
I think the next piece is an update on the core interactions relative to the federal shoreline protection program. Right. We did jump a major hurdle in September 14th. There was a presentation by the Corps to headquarters in Washington regarding their draft findings. There was a concern on the part of the Corps regarding us being included in the tentatively selected project that was being considered for the county, and we had a fair bit of convincing to do on the part of the village vis-a-vis the Corps' concerns that benefits that would be derived from federal investments on the ocean side would be negated by back bay inundation threats. And so we had a pretty extensive back and forth, the manager, myself, Spencer Crowley, Moffitt and Nickel, Jim Davenport, to basically make the case to the Corps that the village was aggressively pursuing all the things that we need to do to deal with the back bay threat. So they saw the logic in our argument, but also indicated that they are likely going to want to have some sort of agreement with the village that essentially commits the village to doing the things that we're saying that we're going to be doing relative to resilience. And also they want to know that we have a very thorough and detailed implementation plan for getting all these resilience-related efforts done that would be protective of the benefits east of Crandon. So long story short is they agreed to keep us in, and so we're continuing to march forward. And there's some milestones that are coming up. In November 4th, They're going to be issuing a report on the feasibility study was undertaken over the past year, and that is going to be available for public comment and review and comment. And then in February, there's another review milestone, specifically agency decision. And so now we're kind of going into a process of working with the county and working with the Corps to optimize the TSP, this tentatively selected project. And Manager, would you like to add to
No,
the,
yeah, this is a good news story.
update?
The answer was on this one, we just had to get to yes, and we got to yes, which is good. Now we have an opportunity to begin to tweak that project as it goes forward. What we will be doing, in fact, Rowan and I were working on it today. We plan to do a presentation to each one of the council members individually, to some of the key HOAs and also to the residents as a whole, prior to the November 4th release from the Corps of Engineers. So we want to make sure that people are prepared for this. They understand what's coming, understand what the project is, what value it brings to what it brings to the community, and make sure that when the public comment period opens, they're already aware of what the project does and the value that it brings to the ocean side.
Roland, what is the, not in detail, but for the back bay? We're talking about raising seawalls. What else are we talking about?
Well, it's going to be a host of issues. It's going to be dealing with the seawall ordinance. It's going to be dealing with the stormwater. It's going to be dealing with the roadways, with the right-of-ways. It's going to be potentially dealing with establishing an easement with the county on the northern boundary of the village to potentially build a berm. It's going to also have to take a look at Crandon and how that relates to roadway elevations to either side of Crandon. So it's a lot of different things.
Because the back bay is actually the entire plan, not just
that's everything else.
Yeah,
yes, Councilman.
and the Corps kind of put us in a very difficult position because at the time that they wanted us to explain how we were going to protect the benefits that are derived from federal investment on the ocean side, they were essentially asking us to provide them with a back-based study, which fundamentally, doesn't exist. But we needed to explain to them all the things that we are doing from a programming point of view that is going to lead to infrastructure improvements that will be beneficial to their benefits from the federal investment on the ocean side.
What normally doesn't happen is the Corps normally does not invest on the ocean side unless there is some sort of project going on the back bay side. This is actually abnormal for them, and so that's why, as Rowan mentioned, we were a little concerned because they were questioning us quite in detail. What they call their project benefit area is primarily east of Crandon Boulevard, and so they're going to cover most of that, although we'll have to address some of that of ourselves. But because of all the work that Jake and Rowan have done over the last 2 years, and also the approval of the bond and our ability to fund our projects going forward, we were in very, very good position to make the argument that we could support and defend the backside.
And I'd just like to also add, because they asked us very specifically, in regards to the beach access points that you committed to establishing beyond the 2 that you already had, what kind of progress have you made on that? And we were able to tell them in detail where we were at, what has been achieved, and the fact that we were about to get the first of the 3 legally set up. And so they saw that as, well, you guys are really serious about your commitment to resiliency across the island, and we're convinced that you will be doing what you need to be doing to be protective.
Did the Army Corps have a back bay plan for the city of Miami, and then they decided they'd rather have their own plan?
Actually, it was for the county. County's always the local sponsor. And the back bay study for the mainland was primarily in the city of Miami. However, the local sponsor was the county. After, about a year and a half so, they decided instead of doing the Army's, the Corps of Engineers plan, they were going to do what they call locally preferred plan.
Well, so my question is, since that was the plan, did they have a plan for Key Biscayne?
No, they did not. However, since that did happen, we are in conversation with the county to see if we can get into that back bay study.
Okay.
The locally preferred plan.
I understand.
Yeah. So that's we as the day after it was in the newspaper, we were on the phone with them.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Joel.
Not to lose the point, you made it previously and you made it a moment ago. I take it that the passage of that GO bond was quite influential.
Yes, it very much was a significant,
I think it just
point.
pretty much won it over.
Yeah. It's so important. So important.
The manager and I will be scheduling meetings with you individually to start running through the TSP in more detail, and that should be in the next week.
It's been a long time coming.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Next. Where's Renee? Hiding in the back.
Mr. Velasco.
Can't run, but you can hide.
Save the best for last.
He's not last.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. Basically, a quick update on the recertification program that we have. For the most part, a lot of these HOAs and management companies are coming forth with a report, and many of them have been recertified, and some of them are in the process of pulling permits to do repairs to get recertification. For those that are not working with us, we're planning to, with the manager's office, to prepare a draft violation letter with a fine of $500 that they would have to, we will issue to them if they don't comply. This is for to be starting on November the 15th. After that, they will have 30 days to be able to comply, or they will be reported to the Unsafe Structure Board at Miami-Dade County.
How many buildings do we have like that?
We have 13 that are 3 or more years past due, and we have 22 that are 3 or less years.
How many are not complying and doing something about it?
Those 22, we have total 22%.
They refuse to do anything about it, or just haven't got around to it?
We're preparing those letters now. We gave it to the village attorney to review it, and then we'll send them out November the 15th.
No, but when you or your people have talked to these people,
yes, sir.
What has been their reaction? Hey, we're going to do it later, or forget about it, or we just don't give a damn. We don't have the money.
No.
What are they talking about?
No, basically they're saying that because of after what happened in the Surfside, it's hard for them to find engineers to go ahead and do the reinspection for the recertificate for the report.
So they're saying they're willing to do it. They just haven't been able to get the people.
Right.
So by giving them a letter, sort of a fine, if they can't get people, what's that going to do?
Well, the problem is that
excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt. Is it a valid complaint that there are not enough structural engineers going around to do this?
Yes and no. Yes, it is true. The other municipalities are having the same issue, but we have other properties here in the Key that have complied, and they have made the effort to find the engineers to provide the reports.
It's also we as a municipality have to continue. They can come and say, "Oh, we can't find somebody." We've got an obligation to make sure we're moving.
Basically, the county does, but we're taking the county's role.
We're instructed by the county to essentially act in that position.
Mandated by the county to
correct.
To go ahead and do it.
But they only need to provide the report right now.
Yeah, right now
all they have to do to comply.
This is what we're doing. Like for us right now, for the village to be, we need to get a report that says that the building is safe, but there are some repairs that they may have to do. Those repairs may take 6 months, a year, 2 years, but at least we know that there is a level of safety while the repairs are being done. All we're requiring right now initially is to have that report from an engineer qualifying the property as such. We are giving them now, we've been working with them for now 3 to 4 or 5 months. And again, my conversation with them is 3 years ago, we didn't have the issue with Surfside. You could have done this 3 years ago. So now you waited to the last minute. Now, yeah, I understand there is a legitimate reason for them not to not comply on time, but some of others are. And not only here, but in other municipalities also. In addition to that, there are going to be some changes coming up, probably by the end of this month, that the county is getting more strict. And it's going to become even more difficult for some of them to find these engineers because they're requiring structural inspectors to be the only ones certifying these buildings or inspecting them. And that's going to create a demand and probably even increase of cost. So if they comply now, at least give us a report, and then we started a process by which they pull a permit and they do the repairs, it will be much better for them. We're trying to do this with a letter as an encouragement, strong encouragement to comply. It's for their benefits, mainly.
I have a question, Chad. Do we have any right as the village government to send we have 2 building inspectors, to send them into these various buildings to walk around the garages or anything else exposed, to visibly just doing a cursory inspection for spalling, for argument. Forget about just rust stains, but for spalling. Do we have the right to do that, or do we need search warrants?
Well, from time to time, if someone complains and they let us on, then then we go on and we inspect. But I don't think that we have the right to just walk on unless we can personally observe a life safety issue, and then the building official would have that
We
right.
can't observe, we can't.
No, but you can, like, from
parking lot or something.
Yeah, from the road, or for example, when we determined the Sonesta to be unsafe. Right, the building official did everything from the right of way, but we would probably get a civil warrant and go in there and.
I guess my next, having said that, since these people say they want to comply, they're trying to comply, I guess we could ask them if they would object to us going in there to basically bring our 2 building inspectors to do cursory walk around to see if they notice any kind of spalling is taking place, which is the major problem, correct? If
Yes.
you see spalling, you usually got more problems. Forget about just rust stains, but if they see spalling, could we do something? If they agreed to that, we could do that, correct?
If they voluntarily agree, sure.
Okay. So my next question would be, in effect, we do that, so then we know that there's no obvious things that are really bad. But if we do see something, we'll say that is problematic, well, then maybe we can help them get a structural engineer or do something to make that on the top of the list to get the thing done.
If I may, sir, the problem with that is that this is something that's mandated by the county. It has nothing to do with the municipality. The county will not accept anything other than a report from an engineer.
Well, no, I understand that. This is not saying, no, we're not talking about reports. We're talking about to make our citizens feel good that the buildings they're living in, at least we looked around cursory, didn't see anything. We're not going to write in reports. We're not going to do anything other than if we see something we don't like. If George or Pepe see something they don't like and report to you, and then you talk to those people and say, listen, you might have a problem. You really got to get on this particular thing as quickly as possible. And maybe you can't find a structural engineer. Maybe we can find some structural engineers.
Okay, so
that might be interesting working with
Let me take
you.
the opposite then. So George and Pepe walk around, they don't see anything. They come out, and then the building says, "Oh, there's no issue."
No, we're not just walking around. They're not writing a report.
No, but I think Councilmember London just wants a sense of security for the people that live there. But anybody who lives in that building can invite the building inspector over because they have a concern, and you guys can go there and look at it, and they can say, you need an engineer right away to look at this, or don't worry, that's normal, sense of security. I think that's what you're saying.
Exactly. And I don't necessarily want our people going out there and saying, "Oh, it looks normal." I don't want. That's my point. I don't want
to say it looks normal. They can say we didn't observe any spalling. That's all.
I just
you want to write a careful disclaimer.
Well,
I would want to be very.
Too many lawyers on this council here.
Yeah, that's what he says now.
If the subset of buildings that we're talking about are up for certification, recertification anyway, you wouldn't presumably ever say, we've observed nothing, you have no problem, because they've got to go through the certification
They got to go through the process anyway.
Yeah.
Right. That's the only way they're going to get the recertification.
We're not going to say anything other than if they saw something, they'll come and say, hey, listen, this is what we saw.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, and there's some merit in this if it's handled correctly, is that by doing this, you have the possibility of observing a more urgent condition that would require an accelerated response.
You say it so well, Frank.
Yeah. I have a question. What's at a reasonable time for someone to get one of these reports done? Because these reports, I don't think take that long to actually do the report itself. But I think what the problem is that it's such a high demand now. Everybody is mandated to do this. Is 3 months more than enough time that they should have already complied with this? Or do you see that, yes, this is a 6-month endeavor because things are just backed up, or this should be only a 2-week? That should be reasonable.
In the case that we have now, the problem is that, for instance, I have a few properties that they've had a report that was done 3 years ago, and they're still working. They were trying to work with this engineer to do the repairs, but now they're trying to get a hold of that engineer again. which, you know, gives me some kind of a impression that the building is safe because the engineer is involved. But they're so busy doing some other stuff that they cannot get the same engineer. And now they don't want to get a second engineer because if they contradict each other, that could create a problem for them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a reasonable time for that, 90 days is more than reasonable to produce a report.
Yeah, just
not
a report.
To achieve the recertification.
And they've been on notice since July is when you guys
They've
started
been on
really...
notice since a week after the issue with
Okay, so November is reasonable, so they should have had somebody already
and not
hired.
only written, but I've been talking to them back and forth. Again,
Okay.
most of them have come forth, and they have produced the reports, and we're working with them with permits.
Most of the 36 that you have here.
Most of the original that we
Well,
have.
Renee, I think, correct me, I don't know if we have the right number, but we started about 55.
Right.
Right, so now we started with 55 who were still in the process. So about 19, 20 have already finished that process. So it is doable.
Okay.
A number have progressed.
All right.
And just to your point, one of the changes is going to be that instead of only doing 90 days, 2 years in advance, we're supposed to notify them. Then a year, that was actually a proposal the manager brought, but the county is now making it a rule. 2 years, then a year, then 90 days. And that should give them enough time to prepare. And again, like I always say, the process is a continuous process since the year is CO. The building is CO. It's just to the maintenance should be done as required by the code. It's just a matter of when the time for the recertification comes, it will be just a matter of inspecting and finding hopefully nothing wrong, or if something wrong, something very minor that could be resolved quickly.
Okay.
Again, like I said, some of the changes that they have made already, and at the end of the month, they're going to confirm if everything has passed, is the notification on the advance. And another one is they're going to change, they're planning to change from 40 years to 30 years, the initial recertification. And also they want to make sure that when we find and we notify a building, to make sure that it's posted and that the HOA has the requirement to advise the customers, the residents. And finally, on October the 5th, there was a resolution put forth by the county to work with the property appraiser's office, where they're going to compile and get information from the municipalities to get the data from the recertification process of each property and post it on the property appraiser's office. They're going to work together to try to put that and make it as part of the requirement.
So in some ways, us trying to move this along as quickly as possible, it really helps, because if this ends up on the properties appraisals list, this could have an impact on residents for years to come.
So we have to have good communication out there that need to move.
Yeah, because this could get ugly on people's property values if this gets on the property appraiser's list.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last item.
Last item, Todd, if you want to be Mr. Fun, tell us what's going on this fall and winter.
And I've already told the manager that you forgot the haunted hike on there.
Yeah, okay. At the manager's direction, we started to put together a list. You're right, it's not perfect yet, but we're going to get it there, and we're going to keep it updated and communicate with you. To the mayor's point, Christina and Fernanda did an amazing job at the Children's Business Fair and made life very easy for the village. Since we've produced this, Key Biscayne Car Week is February 4th, 5th, and 6th. We'll add that and keep it updated. And we'll work with our partner to give you a comprehensive list in the future so you know what's going on.
Yeah, I think this is great. Thank you very much. Are you, Mayor, are you going to be in the Duncan booth at the haunted hike this year or no?
Probably.
All right. That might get a lot more people coming out.
I'll bring money that day.
A lot of piggy banks get emptied out when I'm
Now, and all this is, obviously inspired by a lot of things, but even more so, Mayor, you and I were at the KB Children's Entrepreneur Fest 2 weeks ago. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was
and
great.
it's just the spirit of just getting out the great things that go on across.
That's the thing. It's great to have. It's great to be getting out again, and it's great to see people
community.
Yeah, and doing things. So, and Todd, this is the Hofferberg season. Let's be honest. From here on out, it's just Todd's got something to do every weekend.
He's making a list.
Matters besides Todd.
Exactly. So anyway, did I ask you about 30th anniversary?
No, but you can now.
Okay. What thoughts?
We've discussed it internally, and we think that we're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, and we should just wait a year until everything settles down. We looked at doing December 3rd.
We think we're going to do it 31 for 30 or 30 for 31. We're not sure exactly how we're going to
count well anyways. That's all right.
So do it next September?
Yeah, next September.
Yeah.
We were thinking about doing it during Winterfest. It just didn't.
No, that's fine. I would like to see this thing done.
It was
before,
Art Basel pretty much had everybody booked,
Right.
so
Okay.
it didn't make sense to try to pull that off.
all right, next September.
We'll do some pithy 30 for 31 or something like that.
So are we going to get the fireworks for that too?
Yes.
Or do we just get the one fireworks?
We'll work on that, yeah.
You can't go wrong with fireworks. Sorry. All right.
We'll get double fireworks.
Awesome. All right, that it? Move to adjourn.
Second. And good night.
It's not long enough to meeting. Let's go.
What happens when you got 4 people?
Things go fast.